Hey guys, what's going on? Well, yes, is back at you with another video, part 2 of some of the admittedly negative things or bad things about Italian football. As a Italian football fan, some of the things I'll admit to, like, hope you checked out part 1. If not, please check it out, and hopefully you'll look out for part 3. And I'm going to make a positive version of some of the things I think are positive about Italian football that could be marketed for Italian football. And I often talk about making a positive from a negative, so I hope that I'll, if I get enough views, I'll still be able to donate any money I make from these videos towards the improvement or advancement of development of Italian football. Anywho, so as I mentioned in part 1 of this video, or the first video of this series, obviously it feels a bit strange talking about some of the negative things being a fan of Italian football, because I think that obviously just I want to support the brand. Well, I want to support the brand value of Italian football and attract great coaches, owners, managers, and so forth, and help Italian football to get back to the top as it was in the 90s or whatever. So obviously, it's like a business person, I suppose, talking about a negative thing about their own project. But I thought it's important to address some of the negatives. I often come up with these lists where I talk about 30 ideas or 30 points. So I know that it's not always possible to. It's probably a bit of a bad habit of mine, but I'm going to try and get through it anyway. Number 11, I think sometimes with the culture of Italian football, like the defensive culture, or playing older players, or possibly a bit negative football, or defensive, or some of the prejudice or things like that is really hard to change. So I'd love to hear from people who are not Italian fans. I said in my previous video about what would make them become Italian fans, if anything, and what they think could improve Italian football. But I hope that Italian football can be versatile enough to change. Sometimes it has a culture that is a bit outdated, but it's hard to sort of change some of those cultural practices. Number 12, again, I think I know I keep mentioning this point about it being defensive and negative, and that's something that many people talk negatively about Italian football. Like, obviously, many football fans prefer to see like skills and attacking football, and teams getting out teams and closing teams down rather than sitting back and waiting for the other team to make mistakes or whatever. So, although I think it could be marketed another way, where people talk about the skills of defensive football and tactics and analysis and all that, but it's generally seen as quite negative, or like obviously people watch football for entertainment and to get away from the real world or work or whatever. So I think football is important to make people feel good and be happy and stuff like that. So obviously they watch it for more attacking football. So I think it'd be great to see more expansive or adventurous or enterprising football, as I would call it, which I would love to see, like Italian football learning from Spanish football especially, or Brazilian football even, or Argentinian football, but also maintain that defensive culture. So it is difficult to strike that balance. Number 13, again, unfortunately there's a lot of racism and prejudice in Italian football and football hooliganism, which I think is a real bad shame. And perhaps it can be known to be a bit arrogant, and also there can be a lot of cheating, like match fixing, or Italian football is known to be diving or cheating in some way. So I think that's a shame as well, and it would be something that would be great to change. Although I must admit, part of me thinks if our Italian clubs and Italy won, I'd rather us win by playing attractive football. But I think as long as we win within the rules of the game, and the officials did their best and weren't bribed or paid any money, and there's no match fixing generally or anything like that, I think as long as we win, even if it is, dare I say, someone diving or someone, the referee didn't see it somehow with VAR, that's obviously a lot harder. But as long as we win within the rules of the game, I think that's, for me, it's like the main thing, if I'm honest. As I say, if I'm purely honest. Number 14, again, I think like it is hard to change some of those cultural things, and I don't know if it's going to change and if it will keep change. Like if teams go out and attack, if they will continue to do so. And I think, sorry if I'm repeating all these points again, but playing older players, I think again, I love Italian football to learn from like countries like Spain about how to develop younger players and things like that. Look at the weaknesses we have, as I say, as a fan, and how we can improve. And where teams, I think most of the teams that have been successful have been attacking teams, as well as fact that can entertain and make Italian football have more fans around the world. I think that could also yield success on the pitch, which obviously would increase the brand value and the finances and things like that. So, number 15. Again, I'd love to hear from other people what they think is negative about Italian football and what could change about Italian football, like what could make it better. And I wonder how that would be implemented. And I'd love to know what Italy can learn from other leagues where, like Spanish, to be more entertaining, play more attractive football, like South American or Spanish, but also keep the defence. And I think that's, I'll say, a difficult balance. But I'm probably clutching at straws a bit. But so I suppose that's probably a good thing if I can't really think of that many negative things. But I think it is known to be, even though there's some great players who have played in Serie A, and even now, like Ronaldo and players like that, there's still like a negative stigma, and it might take a while to even if Italian football changed and went more attacking, I think it would be difficult to change some of the stigma about fans seeing that it's gone more attacking and there's more skillful and creative players, and it's more expansive, if you like, and more entertaining. So I think it would take a while to get rid of that boring tack or whatnot. 16. Some people might see it as overly competitive, like not necessarily fair play or whatever. But I suppose if you like competitiveness, like in America or whatever, they like competitiveness. But in places like the UK, perhaps to an extent, as they say, it's more about taking part or having fun, I think, rather than competing, although most people seem to want to win. But as I say, it's probably not the most fair play, about fair play or things like that. Number 17, perhaps Italian football lacks a bit of imagination or creativity that is in other leagues, as I say, like Spanish or English, and how they can be versatile and use a bit of creativity and things like that. Number 18, I'd say it can be a bit negative, and that's probably why there's not so many risks involved. And again, there's a lot of prejudice, and I think that's really a real big shame. And it's probably not known as the most charitable and that sort of thing. 19, again, Italy has like a negative view of migrants, or which you could say is a bit unfair, because Italians have travelled around the world and migrated and even tried to colonise other countries. And just like other countries, European countries, they seem to be very anti-migrant. So I think that's a bit of a negative thing about Italy generally. Although I only support them for the football, but really, like, because of what they do in society, a lot of it that affects football. And number 20, again, I think it is a real big problem, like developing too many older players, like going for experience rather than youth, because then the youth don't always get the experience that they need, because if you're only playing older players, and the youth aren't always given chances. So I'd love Italy to learn a lot from Spain about developing the youth, and always to play like I'd love them to always play like at least 3 under-21 players in all senior games, and things like that. So again, incorporate things like Germany and Spain have learned, and maybe in France, like how they've developed young great players, and that's helped them to win the World Cup and things like that. So anywho, I hope I didn't repeat too many points, and I know I sound like a broken record, but I'd love to know what you think. Hopefully I did better than I thought, and I know it's a bit of a quirky video, and I thought I'd cover some of the negatives. You might wonder why I'm still a fan of Italian football, but I suppose because I've supported them for so long, and I've been through like thick and thin, unfortunately mostly the negative side of that. But anywho, so hopefully the changes will be made in the future, and peace and love. Please leave your comments. I'm out.